Hello, ladies and gents. This is Dos Bromigos, episode 5.
I did a peace sign and then I was like, wait a minute.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
What's going on, dude?
I don't know what to do with my hands. Did you see Hafthor did it?
That was one of my topics.
He did it.
I'm not impressed.
What you mean you're not impressed?
So Eddie did 500 kilograms, which is 1,102 pounds.
Yeah.
And Hafthor, who is 6 inches taller and 60 pounds heavier than Eddie, given Eddie has less range of motion, essentially shorter, but Hafthor is substantially stronger and could have easily done 520, 525.
Wow.
But Eddie almost killed himself doing 500, and Hafthor goes, "No, I'm gonna easily do a 5x1. Just this so I get it."
Well, he trained, right? He trained for a long time.
Yeah,
Like a year.
but still,
He didn't die.
exactly. He didn't push himself.
You want to see a man die.
I want to see him put all his, like Eddie did, put all effort into it. Eddie could have done 510 easily, but put all his effort and be like, no one's ever gonna get this record. It's like Eddie said before he did it. It's been going up 1 kilogram at a time over, the past 20 years. It's gone up 20 kilograms. Everyone does it 1 kilogram at a time, and so that's why he wanted to bump it up 50 kilograms.
Can you do it in his voice?
No, the fucking phlegm in the back of the throat. No, I can't.
You did it last week. It was pretty
But
good.
but yeah, that's why I'm not like. Hafthor's like, oh, okay, I'll just do 1 more kilogram, add 2 pounds.
So you're looking at it from a critical standpoint, huh?
Yes.
I'm talking about just as a man. I'm only 190. I couldn't lift that shit.
Neither,
I'm pretty impressed.
neither could I, but still, it is impressive, but it's not. I'm not like, oh
You're
shit,
just being critical.
he
of
beat it. I'm like,
Oh, he didn't.
he just did. Yeah, he just did 1 more than Eddie did.
Critical is fair.
Yeah, it is impressive, but not wow factor.
You just want him to be impressed.
I do.
That's fair.
I want him to go. I did 550.
How many is that in pounds? A ton? What's a ton?
A ton is 1,000 kilograms, or somewhere in there. Because
How many pounds is a ton? 1,200?
2,200,
What is a ton?
2,200 pounds, I believe.
How many garbage trucks is that? What's that in garbage trucks?
A car, the average car is roughly a ton, I believe.
So could he
Or
pick
like
up a
half
car?
ton. Potentially, yes. But yeah,
I don't know much about
kilograms
tons.
are 2.2 pounds.
Okay.
So we did 501. That's 1,104.
Do they make 45 kilogram plates?
They
Or
do.
are they 50 kilograms?
They're 45 kilograms, I believe,
Which
which
is-
is 100 pounds.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jesus. Makes me feel like a little man.
Yes. What topics you got for today,
Close to nothing.
buddy man? You got a fucking list there, dude.
Nah, this is all silly stuff. I watched a video from a Shaolin monk. I was talking to Melissa about clarity.
Here's my list.
It's about as long as mine is.
Anywho, clarity.
Yeah, like how to be a person and stuff. People don't know how to be people. It's kind of weird. I don't know what I'm about to explain, really. It's something I'm learning about.
Preach, brother man.
But it's about this guy, Shin Yen Ki. That's incredibly racist. I don't know his name. He's a Shaolin leader. Shaolin master guy. And I saw his video and he was talking about he was talking about the 5 hindrances of anything, of clarity, the 5 hindrances of humanity. And he used the analogy of a man getting up to a mountain, getting up to the summit of a mountain. The man lived his whole life at the bottom and he wanted to see the top. He wanted to stand on top of the mountain and see down. And he wanted to go do it, so he started up the mountain and he met a guy. And he talked to the guy about his journey. He's like, oh, what's it like at the top? And he told him what it was like at the top. And he told him about why he didn't, oh, you shouldn't do it because of this reason. And I had all these obstacles and blah, blah, blah. So the man continues on and he meets another person, asks him about how his time was, what he saw at the top. And he continues on, meets another person. And all the time he's met like 17, 20 people. And he hears about all their obstacles. And he hears about what they've heard at the top and what they saw at the top. And he decides, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't need to do it anymore. I know what it's like at the top. And he says that that's the most unfortunate thing is that he missed out. he shouldn't have not done it.
Yes.
And I didn't quite understand that. And so we went on to talk about the 5 hindrances, which people will recognize from their daily life as, oh, so-and-so was rude to me and now I'm crying. But they don't understand why that is.
Yeah.
And that's been like a huge growing up thing, is learning about why people make people upset and all that. He put it all down for you on paper, which is nice because Shaolin Man knows how to explain things in English. It's crazy because watching it, he uses English as its actual definition for words.
Yeah.
We say things in a way that you and I understand. You and I we talked about how we almost speak our own language.
Mm-hmm.
Like you and I can talk really quick and almost in colors. Like I could say colors to you and you'd know what I was talking about. And this guy is using actual clerical English. He says that these things are about me, and I'll get to that later, but the way he used about me like turned me on for a minute because of what he meant. But he talks about the 5 hindrances, and I'll quickly go through these because I don't have any sort of doctorate or any real understanding of them. Just there's like the sensual desire, which is when you smell nice food at a restaurant and you're like, oh man, that food smells really good, but I'm on a diet, but I want that food. And when you're stuck around it long enough, you go get that food.
Yes.
Regardless of whatever the consequences are. And then there's ill will, which everybody knows, I don't like you, so I'm going to make your day poor. And there's dullness and heaviness, which is I'm bored, so I won't do this thing. And restlessness, which is I'm stuck here and I can't do anything, so I don't want to do anything, so I won't achieve my goal. And the skeptical doubt, which is I don't think I can, so I won't.
Yeah.
But he all of those, and he explains them very well. I don't have anywhere near the ability to do it, so I won't. He says, through all that, just let it rain. And I was like, what the fuck? It's raining right now.
Yeah.
And he says
And here we are.
there's like a rain is recognize, accept, investigate, and non-identify. And I'm very well versed in the recognize, accept, and investigate part, because it's like, why do I feel this way? You got to recognize that, figure it out. That's the investigate. And then accept is like, yes, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of an example in my own life. I'll use one of Melissa's life because I helped her with it just last week, but I couldn't explain to her the last step because I didn't quite understand it. I do it, but I don't know how I do it, or I didn't quite realize what I was doing. And this guy, Melissa was having trouble because she wasn't ready for her test, or she felt like she wasn't ready for her test and she didn't want to take her test. And everybody knows that people take tests at school and it frustrates them. People who say they're bad test takers could learn a lot from the dude, that what he's talking about, but it's like really what you're afraid of is failing the test. So you recognize that fact that you're not afraid of the test itself because you either know the stuff or you don't. Recognize that you're afraid of the consequences of either failing or passing the test. Accept that. Like, take some responsibility. Like, oh, I'm afraid of the test, so I can't do anything. No. You're afraid of the consequences of it, and that's your fault. So let's deal with that. And then you investigate why that is, and you're afraid of failing the test because you might not get where you want to be in life, or grand scale, or whatever you're talking about. And then the 4th step, which I always thought was like, oh, now don't do that. Don't fail the test. Do whatever you have to do to not fail the test, and you get that. We talked about that last week. But it's he says he called it non-identify. That's the N in rain, and this blew my fucking mind because I did not know how to explain this. But he's like, his own words were, recognize that I am not the body, I am not the mind, and this is what blew me away, because I've always told people, like, this is just your vehicle. This is what you use to grab things, but really you're up here. This is you in your brain.
Yeah.
That's where you're at. But he says, I'm not the mind, and I was like, oh, fuck. Well, then what the hell have I been saying this whole time? Where are we if we're not in the mind, right? And he says, I'm not the body. And I was like, word, yeah, we're the mind. And then he says, but I'm not the mind. And I was like, oh fuck, man, what are we now? And he's because English isn't his first language, he takes a long time to say what he's going to say. And I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, you're
like
on
my
the edge of that
microphone.
table, yeah.
He says, I'm not the mind. And so I was blown away. I was like, well, shit, I don't know anything. And he says, I'm not the emotion. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy, right? He says, it's just that I can see all these things about me. And that took me away a minute, because he says about, and in my brain, to be about something means you have to have ownership of it. Like, I can tell you about this book. It's brown, it's leather, blah, blah, blah. Those are what the properties of this book are. It has to be those things for it to be about it. But he used it in the actual English, which I had to Google this fucking word because I haven't heard it used that way. But about just means around. Like, you're about me right now. And you hear that in old literature, like, the prey is about the wilderness or whatever. That's a terrible analogy. But he says, like, he used about in the surrounding. Like, I can see that about me. It's right there. I can see it. And that blew me away. I was like, this guy's got my number,
Like,
dude.
what the fuck have I been learning all these years?
Yeah. And so he's like, he's not any of those things. He's the spirit. And he didn't say that, which is cool because you have to think about it. But I think that's what he meant is he is the spirit. Like, you just control all these things and you see them all around you and you're meant to manipulate them or not manipulate them. But that blew my mind. That was like a solid 2 hours of my day yesterday. I was like, I grabbed Melissa and I was like, hey, come on, watch this. Come watch this Chinese man. He knows what he's talking about. I sure as shit don't, but he knows. He knows what he's talking about. But yeah, that non-identified blew me away. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And so now he said, let it rain. So now whenever somebody's got a problem, I'm just like, hey, let it rain, babe.
Let it rain.
Let it rain. Because you finna handle it.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing is, like, the beginning of your story, you were talking about the man who climbed the mountain and met all these people along the way that told him not to.
And
I think that's where a lot of people fail in life is that they just let people tell them, here's what's wrong, you can't do that, or I did it and it didn't work out these ways, so you probably shouldn't do that. And I hate that shit. Like my parents, for example, they always, like, when I try to pick up something really heavy or to do something that's insane, they're like, why you do? You're gonna hurt yourself. The whole like I'll go to pick it up and like, you're gonna hurt your back. I'm like, go fuck yourself. I'm like,
hi, Abby.
I'm like, hey, I'm like, I'm substantially younger than you. I know what I'm doing, and then they go to the, well, we were that way too when we were your age and blah 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 blah, and it's like, well, this is a different day and age. People are different now, and yeah, I might regret doing that later on in life. Like Eddie Hall, for example, lifting 500 kilograms, that might fuck him up in the long run. Like Ronnie Coleman, how all these different things he did fucked up his body, and now he can barely walk.
He's got to do it.
And it's like, yeah, I might regret it later on, but right now I fucking did it.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to take the journey. You're saying you're not afraid of a challenge. You want to take the journey. And that's how it should be. A lot of people aren't that way. And that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
There was something that you said that I was vibing with. I can't remember what it was now. But
don't let other people tell you.
Yeah, don't let other people tell you what to do.
something.
You got to do it yourself. And if you don't like it, that's cool. But you got to know that. You can't not know that.
Yeah. Kind of like you going to the gym and
It's like going to the gym versus going to Burns.
Friends of ours. Yes.
Going to the gym versus going to Burns. I liked going to the gym. I still do. I went to Burns once. Hell no. That wasn't it. That was not for me.
Yeah.
But it's important to do it. 8-hour drive, be damned.
It's like 2.5, 3.
To Burns?
Yes,
You smoking.
I've been there.
You smoking.
I've been through there. It's like an hour past Redmond or an hour past Bend.
Yeah, an hour.
it's like
past
3
it.
hours.
It's like 8 hours, bro.
No, 8 hours just to Idaho.
No way. It's
Yes.
a long drive.
Oh shit.
I sure hope that got on the fucking video, dude.
It did. I heard him in my fucking headset. It's quite loud.
I'm watching it now. I'm
Yeah.
watching all three of them
Yeah,
now.
4 minutes. That was a good one.
That blew me away. I really didn't. I never heard. Nobody's ever tried to put that final step into words. So I mean, not that I've ever seen. I'm sure
Yeah.
people have, but I've never seen it done. And I watched it on a TED Talks. Go watch TED Talks with Shaolin Master blank. I forgot his name. No, it's 3 words. It's like Shin Yang Chi or something. I'm gonna be crucified for not knowing that, but definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
He's probably not watching.
Like you were saying, it all wraps back to the story of the guy on the mountain. He's like whenever you see somebody struggling, I'm trying to remember what he said now, but it did wrap back to the guy on the mountain. And he's like, if you want to, this is what it was. This was the point of the 5 steps. You recognize the 5 hindrances. You use the let it rain to get past them. And then the idea is, and what he says is, if anybody wants to take the journey, if anybody feels like they're at the bottom of the mountain and they want to see the top of the mountain, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like, let it rain,
Yeah.
go through the struggle, because when you're at the top, there's nothing that can replace the feeling or the clarity you get from achieving whatever it was, and nobody can explain that to you. Nobody can give that to you. That's something you have to earn.
Yeah.
Word, Mr. Shen Yang Chi. Word. I'm gonna be in trouble because I forgot his name, so I'm gonna quickly Google it because I feel bad.
It's fine.
But yeah, that was me. I was vibing hard last night. That I was like, my God.
You know what blows me away, and I believe I've talked to several people about this, but it blows me, like how you're saying about, and just even this English language, and just any language in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I get into these weird headspaces sometimes where I'll be thinking, and I'm like, what are these words? Like, these are just sounds. And then what are sounds? What are letters? Like, these are just things that people created, and that we basically vibe off of. You know what I mean?
Language and how ideas and experiences are transferred through language.
Well, not just that. It's like what is language? What are letters? What are these things we created? And I just get like super existential with all these. It's like keeps going on and on. Like, what are numbers? What are we as human beings? What
blogs of goop,
and it just like
came out the ocean.
It just starts blowing my mind. And then like when if you ever get to like where you think about death, and you're like I'll get into that sometimes, and it freaks me out because I'm like, I'll just die and the world keeps going on.
You're afraid of death?
And not necessarily afraid of it, but just like the thought that it's like you do all these things, but they in essence they don't really matter, because in the end it's just like lights out, and then you don't know what's going on, and then the universe goes on.
Go back to the beginning of that. When you say that you do these things that don't really matter, should you spend time doing those things if they don't matter?
Well, it's life experience, and you do these things for the enjoyment of life, but in the end it's like, you just die and they go away. And
what if you were able to do something that made it so you didn't go away when you died? I can name 50 people off the top of my head who are dead but are still very much in literature. You would recognize their name based off of things they do.
Well, yeah, but they're not here. You know what I mean? Like
Elon, does that mean, so you have to be here to be part of the world?
Like Elon Musk, he's doing incredible things in this world, and when he dies, people are gonna be like, oh, the Tesla, this, that, this, blah, 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 whatever, potentially got us to Mars. But then 500 years from now, it's gonna be like, yeah, we're on Mars. I don't really know how we got here, but we're just here. Like Christopher Columbus, you don't really think that's the dude that got us to America, like basically what started America. But here we are, you know.
Wow.
It's like Christopher Columbus in the 1400s, 300 years of nothingness, 1776. This is now America, and we created this country. But then you kind of just write him off, like, okay, George Washington is now our first president. You don't know any of the other presidents besides George Washington. You know what I mean? Like,
you write off Chris Columbus?
In essence,
I love that. We just writing him off.
It's like
Chris who?
Things just go on, and like Eddie Hall doing the 500 deadlift. It's like the thing went off. You need to restart that.
Oh, it's still going. We're good.
Eddie
Hall doing the 500.
Like,
you're saying he's written off now?
No. Like, George Washington was the first. Could you name who's the second president of the United States?
Thomas Jefferson.
No. And so.
Abraham Lincoln.
But no, yeah, you just keep writing, like.
History keeps going.
Exactly. How many presidents could you name off?
History keeps going.
Maybe 5 of them, and all the ones you can name the 3 that have been in your lifetime, and then maybe like 10 other ones that you remember from history class. But that's about it.
Can I take that challenge right now?
Sure.
Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, George Bush Jr., George Bush Sr., Mitt Romney.
He wasn't a president.
Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, George Bush, Barack Obama, Barack Obama.
Okay.
Shit. Who else? Who's that guy?
Who's
right
our
before
current president?
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
There's 7 or 8.
You gotta mute that one. I don't know if I can get to 10. Hold on. Who's that? Herbert Hoover. Yeah, Herbert Hoover. Damn. You can't tell me if that was president or not, can you?
No, I cannot. I'm
We're
pretty
saying
sure
it was. And then shit. I need 2 more. 2 more to prove you wrong. All the people are screaming in their homes right now. They're like, this guy can't fucking name a single president.
Bill Clinton.
Oh, Bill Clinton. There you go. See, Hillary too.
Theodore Roosevelt.
See, now we're teaming up. See, we're cheating though.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like
we can name 11.
You remember the important ones?
11 out of 52.
Yeah. You remember the important ones. You're like, oh, Abe Lincoln did this. George Washington was the first. Theodore Roosevelt did this.
Sure.
Then you remember the ones that are currently in your lifetime. And you're like, oh.
But you can still name Chris Columbus.
Yeah, but here in 100 years, they're not even teaching that in history class anymore.
They're not teaching Chris Columbus in history?
In 100 years, probably not.
What do you mean?
They're going to be like, Elon Musk is the guy who got us to Mars. Fuck Earth. Here's Mars.
Are you suggesting that principle, by that principle, that 100 years ago they weren't teaching, they were teaching something now that we don't know? What could that have been? How to trade and raise slaves?
Exactly.
What was 100 years ago? 1800s?
Like fur trading. Like I was talking to my mom about this the other day.
There is a good point.
Do the shout out.
Abby Meyer. Hello.
But like, cause we were talking about, like how, like I was like, how does a country become in debt? You know how it's like we're $36 trillion in debt or whatever the fuck. It's like
to China.
Like we just print money. We can just keep printing money. And
That's cheating.
But then like, it's like, oh well, it lessens the value of the dollar. It's a piece of fucking paper. The $100 bill and the $1 bill are printed on the same piece of paper, and like there's no real value to them. Whereas back in the day, it was like, I'll give you 5 squirrel skins for that goat.
Pause.
You know what I mean?
I don't want your squirrel skins, asshole.
But like that's what they did. They traded things that were of value to them, and the person was like, either yes or fuck you, go fuck yourself. Give me more than just 5 squirrel skins.
Those are the only 2 options. Yeah. There's no negotiation.
Like, give me your bicycle for this goat.
You're suggesting communism is the way.
Sure.
We're getting into economics that I don't have any sort of jurisdiction on.
You know what's
but
insane?
I feel what you're saying.
You know what's insane?
Hold on. Everyone at the asylum.
Sure.
Okay.
Is that George Washington never knew that dinosaurs existed. They were discovered like 4 years after he died. Think about that, bro. We know all these things existed, and when we die, there's probably gonna be more shit discovered that we're not gonna know existed.
What do you think there is that we don't know existed?
Well, just think. If you had a family member who died before 2007, they don't know that iPhones existed. Or 2008, whatever the fuck.
When was the iPhone existed?
I'm pretty sure it came out in 2007, 2008, somewhere in there.
Well, I'm asking you, though, by that principle, what is there currently a lot like that existed that you think that we don't know about?
But here's the thing, like we perceive things as like
we know it all.
Like all these things just exist, but like we talked about in previous podcasts, 100 years ago, the refrigerator didn't exist. And then when it came out, people were like, that's fucking nuts. Then the microwave came out. Like, we've had all these luxuries our whole lives. Like, it's a microwave, it's a TV. These didn't exist when we were children, these flat screen TVs. It was a giant box in the back of the thing. Now it's a little 3-inch thing. Like, we consistently grow and new things get discovered. 100 years from now, potentially when we're dead, people are going to be driving in hover cars. You know what I mean? But we're not going to see that happen. Or people are going to live on fucking Mars, and we're not going to see that happen.
Are you high?
No, not at all. These are the things that go through my head.
I'm seeing clearly.
That's what I'm
right
saying.
now, bro.
These are things that go through my head where I'm like, what are these fucking words I'm speaking right now?
But it's just, I think language is a really good and globally accepted way to convey ideas and experiences and feelings. Because otherwise, how would I tell you that I have to fart in the next 10 minutes?
Exactly, but like the thing, like there's no universal language. That's the crazy thing. It's like
universal.
Yes.
Global.
Yes. Like
what are we talking here?
We say these words like to a Chinese person speaking Chinese. They're like, "What the fuck are you saying right now?" And then they're going, we're just like,
you can't do that.
We're just like, "What the fuck are you saying?" And then Hispanic people like they're like, "No, I'm like this," and you're like, "What the fuck did you just say?" It's just sounds. We convey these sounds, and we're like, "That makes sense."
Right. Because we agree that.
And then you learn Chinese, you learn Spanish. You're like, I know those sounds now. That makes sense.
So what are you saying? There should be a globally accepted universal standard?
No, but it's insane. Like, in a way, English is kind of the universal basic language.
It's business. It's the language of business.
Yes. And but it's like our language, which we didn't originate from here, originated from Europe, but is like kind of universal. But then we're still stuck on like we're not going to fucking kilogram, the metric system. We're not doing those. Ours is so simple, and then they say theirs is so simple, and it's like This is 3 meters away. I mean 9 feet. That okay? You know.
I don't agree with you on that one. I mean, I agree that we don't change ours. That's silly, but I understand the metric system way better than I do the English, whatever the fuck. I can't tell you how many pounds a ton is, but I can tell you what a ton looks like. I can't tell you what the difference between 9/16 and 3/5 is. Like those, I work on cars, and when people say a metric wrench, I can hand them the right wrench. But when people say an imperial wrench, I will hand them the metric equivalent.
Yes.
Because that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
That's 30/15/16.
I know.
Okay.
I was working on something at work the other day, and like I always go for the millimeters. I'm like, this is.
It just makes more sense.
I'm like,
this is 8.
Yeah, I'm like,
this is 10.
I'm like, I need an 18 millimeter socket right now. Like, you need a 13/16? No, I need a fucking 18 millimeter socket.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Of the Imperial USA standard.
I don't know. Some things seem easier than others, in my perception. But
like numbers wise,
yeah, like just measuring shit. Like, oh, I'm 72 inches tall. You're 6 feet tall.
Yeah, I like for two things. Height. When you tell me in feet and inches, I got you. When you tell me in centimeters, fuck off. I don't know what you're talking about. Dicks. When you tell me in inches, I got you. When you tell me in centimeters, fuck off. I don't know what you're saying. I saw a funny joke.
I'm 14 centimeters long.
Dicks.
What?
Dicks are always measured in imperial inches.
Yes.
I love that. I was like, word. But, hi, Mom. That one, and then also
I'm 144 millimeters long.
But when it comes to like conversions or actually using that math, Melissa and I were doing her homework together, and she said, we need to measure the room. And I said, cut it off. I know the room is 10 feet long, 10 feet wide. It's a square. I've been here my whole life, right? And then she was like, okay, but I need to do it in centimeters. And I was like, peace, I got you. I did it in centimeters in less time than it took me to remember how big the room was. I could actually do the math quicker than I could remember how many feet and inches the room was.
Yes.
Stupid. America's got it wrong.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, change it to the metric system.
Donald Trump.
It's just random name every time. Because you can't say his actual name, because then we'll be put on a watch list.
But yeah, but like simple thing like money, like $1, $5, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is 36 pounds.
Well, that's heavy.
Yeah. I don't have that on me. That's a lot to carry around, but okay. I forgot to set a timer for one.
That's fine. I'm watching it.
Okay.
I like pounds.
But these are the things I think about. Just blow my mind. And
pounds, quid.
14 quid.
I love that. I've always been a fan of England.
Yeah.
I
really want to go to Europe sometime.
Fuck Europe. England. They're not a part of Europe.
They for sure are.
No.
They definitely
Maybe
are.
the continent, but not the actual union.
You know what's weird?
What?
Think about that Russia is a part of Asia.
Yeah. It's actually the most of
I
Asia.
know. That's insane. You think of Asia, like most Americans think China.
Asia.
You don't think Russia, which
That's
is
right.
weird.
But it is like predominantly the entire continent.
Yes.
It's just like it's become an hour in Clayton's brain. That's our podcast for today.
I know.
I'm sitting kinda
And my brain's starting to hurt. You know what I mean? So I think of these things, and I'm like,
an hour in Christmas's brain.
fucking blows me away. You know what's a weird
We're
topic?
gonna have to turn you off before we go home. Just make sure that you're like nice and calm.
I'll start
Here's some
fucking twitching.
SVU.
Yeah. I wrote this down because it cracked me up. When hard dudes, not fucking, but it's like, just like
Not dudes who are hard.
yes, but like hard dudes talk to their kids. Have you ever experienced this?
What's a hard dude?
This?
What's a hard dude?
Like you just like intimidating or just speaks like fucking like I don't give a shit and blah blah blah. It's like
ignorant people.
sure, just a person where like you just kind of feel intimidated by them, or you're like wow, like Like,
The street
I wouldn't-
definition
I
of
wouldn't
hard.
fuck with that guy. Yes.
Okay.
You ever
I'm on the
experienced
same
one of
page.
those gentlemen talk to their child?
Never.
Many a men at my work do, and it cracks me up.
Are you saying you work with hard dudes?
I would consider that, or just regular, like this fucking thing at work, blah 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 blah, and then their child calls them from home. Oh hey, what's going on, little man? Are you okay?
Okay.
And then they just turn to these fucking squids, dude. Like, how you doing?
This sounds like a very personal experience rather than a global
several dudes.
average.
No, I bet when I have a child, it's my dogs, dude. I get home to my dogs, I'm like, what's going on, fucking sinner? Boo, 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 boo. You know what I mean? But then when I'm around other people, I'm like, God, fuck this place. Fuck. Ah. You know what I mean?
I found our clip for this fucking podcast.
But yeah. But yeah, that shit just cracks me up. Like, they're just like, oh, what's going on, little
So
man?
you're talking about convict-style dudes doing baby talk?
Yes.
Okay.
It fucking cracks me up.
Okay.
All right, go to bed now. I'll be home in a little bit. I love you.
Okay.
And then like, they have the phone like, God, my fucking family, man. I can't fuck. They piss me. I'm like, then why were you talking? It's such
There's so much going on there. I can't even begin to like argue with it.
a.
I'll just say, yeah, okay,
You're
yeah,
good.
that's
And
crazy.
when you have a child, it's gonna happen to you.
I don't know about that.
I promise. You're gonna get a call. You're gonna be at work like, I'm fucking down, blah blah blah. And then Melissa's gonna call.
Is that a bad
And-
thing? Is you saying that's a bad thing?
No. But I'm just saying
That's just how
it cracks me up. Yeah.
Am I a hard dude?
I would sure.
Am I hard?
Just in general.
That's
But yeah.
enough.
Melissa's gonna call, and little Eduardo's gonna be on the phone. I'm assuming you're gonna name your kid Eduardo. And he's gonna be like,
Joe?
hey. He's gonna be like, hi, Dad. And you're gonna be like, what's up, little man? Do you hear that fucking
That
rain?
is insane. There's like a hurricane going on outside right now. Hold on. See, be quiet. See if we can hear it.
No, you cannot.
Oh my god.
I can hear that through my headset.
I know.
I'm
Jeez.
gonna put dents in my fucking truck, dude. Jesus.
Welcome to the monsoon season. Anyway.
Yeah. Welcome to Oregon.
Jesus.
But yeah, that shit's been cracking me up.
And it turns off just like that.
I
No
know.
more rain.
I had a topic I don't know much about. I just saw it and I was like, I can write this down. Which was the XFL. They declared bankruptcy and
They're done.
No more. Yes.
That's fine.
And the owner is suing Vince McMahon for some reason.
That guy gets sued every other day of the week, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the XFL to talk about it, but I know there's a lot of stories about when it first started coming out. I was talking to you about how it's an opportunity for people who don't have the means to go to college or don't have the want to go to college. It's raining again.
I've been my dogs. I heard them crying a second ago. That's probably why they're fucking losing their mind.
It's a second outlet for people to get to the NFL, which is the #1 football association on the planet. And then it's cool because there's more than a few stories of people who did that. It sucks
Yeah.
that they can't do it anymore.
They
but
pulled since they're no more. They pulled the NFL has pulled several people from the XFL. And be like, all right, you were good enough in the 4
Hell yeah.
games you played, so
hell yeah,
come on.
that's cool though.
And they've even hired coaches from the XFL. So
I like that.
Yeah.
There should be more opportunity like that.
yeah, it only bums me out because I didn't enjoy watching it because it was
The
horse
XFL.
shit. Yeah, it's like watching kindergartners play, but I enjoyed it because it was better than watching SVU every day. So on my weekends when there was no pro football or basketball, I could just watch XFL. But now with this COVID and things getting pushed back, we'll probably have collegiate football in spring. So
Maybe.
that'd be neat.
Better have a gym in spring. Better have a gym tomorrow.
You see that we got pushed back till
Donald Trump,
Jul-
open this fucking gyms.
Kate Brown pushes back till July 6th.
Open the gyms, Kate Brown.
But yeah, so we're not having I'm not coming over for the 4th of July, I guess.
Of course you are.
I guess
You think anybody's
I
going
am.
to stop because Kate Brown said so?
Well,
No.
the lockdown.
Kate Brown, come to my
We're
house.
still gonna have a 4th of July, but we're not gonna be. We're probably floating shit, but we're not gonna be in
I'm
crowds.
telling you right now. I
However,
will be
we're
doing everything
typically
as
not in crowds. So.
everything as normal on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
You'll come over, we'll go our sick bike ride.
Get fucking blasted, float the river.
That's actually pretty far from as normal, but we might make it happen. Dude, the bike ride though. I scouted it
I
a
need
couple
to
days ago.
pump up my bike.
You have a bike?
The makeshift one you gave me, I still have it.
Throw that in the garbage. Throw that in a ditch in Eugene somewhere. Let somebody have it. I want to dial it back just like 10 minutes to where you were going off about everything. That was insane. You were doing it, bro. You were just ripping on everything.
Existential existence
It
of
was
our
a
lives.
full-on crises going on.
I know. These are things that eat at me, dude. That I'm just like I think about every day. Not every day, but they just like I'll randomly be like I'll be attempting to fall asleep, be seconds away from falling asleep, and be like,
You're like this.
where are we?
But if the world is spinning at 7,000 miles an hour and we're only walking 2 miles an hour, does that mean we're doing 7,000 miles an hour? Is this miles an hour relative to the speed of the planet?
You know what's insane? I saw someone create a video of this. Is that we perceive that we're just like stationary, you know, or like we're revolving around the sun, but the sun is a stationary being.
Hold up 1 second. Dial it back, like the beginning of that sentence. Give me a premise for what's going on, because I understand what you're saying, but they absolutely won't. So start with the beginning, and then we'll get to whatever
The premise of space travel and not space travel, but like shooting through infinity. That's what I should. That's what
Wow.
I'll say.
That's
so
big.
or hurling through infinity. There we go. That's what I'll say.
That's a nice word.
So when you here's a prime example of like why movies are horseshit. So Guardians of the Galaxy, right? They travel.
Continue.
Taking notes. So Guardians of the
No, I'm not
Galaxy.
taking notes.
They're like, oh, we're going to Vormir, which is located here, or we're going blah blah blah, which is located here. They didn't go to Vormir and Guardians of the Galaxy. That was Avengers
They're on there at the beginning, right?
and Infinity War. No, Vormir's where they.
You're right. They're never on Vormir.
Vormir's where they created the soul. They got the Soul Stone.
Yes, that's right. I guide others to a treasure I cannot possess.
Yes.
Keep talking. I'm listening. I'm going over here.
Okay. But yeah, like in those movies, like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like Earth isn't a stationary place. This planet isn't or this galaxy isn't a stationary place. But the way I've seen it explained and the way I've seen videos that explain it is we are hurling through infinity, and the sun is going like this, but it's rotating, and we are rotating around the sun, as are all the other 8 planets in our solar system. And we're, instead of being, here's the sun, and we're going around it, here's the sun, we're going around it, as we're just through infinity. And what blows my mind is, like, there's a northern star, which makes you think, oh, we are stationary in the universe, because there's that one star that we can look at and be like, that's the brightest star, that's a northern star, but it's also trillions of miles away, which is why we perceive it as we're stationary.
You ever take your girl? We're ladies' men, you and I. You ever take a girl out in the summertime when the skies are clear? Because we have decent weather
Out in a
Oregon.
cornfield, bro.
Out,
Fuck yeah.
insert any field of whatever they're growing.
I
corn,
have done
wheat.
that, yes.
And you sit there in the back of your pickup truck and you dip in your lip. Just kidding, no,
Not that. That's
no,
fucking
You
disgusting.
sit there in the back of
for
your
sure.
pickup truck, but you're looking up at the stars and it's all nice. And you ever do like, you're like, man, that shit's really far away.
Yeah, you know what's insane is like I saw something that you could fit every planet in our solar system between the Earth and the Moon.
What?
Yes, and
They're just so far away.
yes, and it's insane because like I took the dogs out last night. We were at the park, and I was looking up at the moon. And I'm like when you look at a mountain, you're like, I could
Throw a football over that.
no, Uncle Rico. But yeah, I'm like looking at that. I'm like, yeah, I could be up that in like an hour, but in essence, it's gonna take you 4 days to go from here to the top of that fucking mountain.
Okay.
I look at the moon and I'm like, that's not that far away. But in realistically, it takes a spaceship traveling thousands of miles an hour in 3 days to get to the moon.
Yeah. I've seen Apollo 13.
Yes, it's
They,
good.
they go around that
one of my
movie.
favorite movies.
motherfucker.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, but you like sit there in the back of your truck, and maybe 2 hours ago, as you were closing the shop at work, you're like, man, I got bills coming up. Man, I'm kind of hungry. And then you look up, and you're like, wow, I'm pretty small. I'm not doing a lot here. Like, you feel like you know how you view an ant?
Yes.
You're like, that's me to there.
I heard this explained the other day. So it's like when you, because they were talking about aliens. So it's gonna fuck up your brain. So you know how like an ant sees, like they come across like an interstate and they don't perceive the interstate as like, oh, this is an interstate. Wow, like people use this to travel, but we see the interstate and we're like, oh, this is how we get places. What if like in essence, like an ant doesn't think, oh, here's this thing that I can use to travel because it's so minuscule compared to the interstate. Like, what if there's this thing in the sky that we don't perceive, that aliens travel across, but we don't perceive it because it's so substantially larger than we are?
Is this a reference to wormholes?
No.
Oh.
I just
Just
this,
that
this is how I heard it explained to me, and I was like, that kind of makes fucking sense.
I saw something also on the theory of space. Somehow we got into space on this one. They were talking about what happens before the Big Bang, because we know the Big Bang is the beginning of everything. Or that's what we're taught. If you're not a Christian, that's what you're taught, is that the Big Bang is the beginning of everything.
Sorry, Christians.
Sorry, Christians. Sorry, Christianity. Word.
Sorry, any religion.
You're taught the Big Bang is the beginning of everything, but I guess everybody's theory of time means there had to be something going on beforehand. And the guy says, well, the first theory is there's stuff going on before the Big Bang. Couldn't understand what it was. I don't know how to say what was said. And then he says the other theory is that there's no real way to explain that. Kind of like you were saying with the ant. Like, we expect, since on the calendar your birthday is after my birthday, that my birthday is before.
You are 3 weeks older than
That's
I am.
my
Yes.
birthday is before your birthday.
Yes.
But what if it wasn't like that? When we just can't understand it.
Yeah.
Like before doesn't really apply to God or the Big Bang.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I'm gonna come back to this, but I heard someone say this, and it cracked me up. When, like, when you're younger, you're like, I'm 3 months older than you, so I'm older. Like, when you're 57 years old, you don't say,
Keep talking.
you don't say, we're both 57, but I'm older. Or, like, you're older because you're 3 weeks older than I am. You say, you just say, we're both 57. you don't say, I'm 57, but you're only 57 in 6 months. I'm 57 and 7 months. But, going back to the space talk,
Is that a juvenile attitude?
no, it just cracked me up. I think it was Theo Vaughn talking about it, and it fucking cracked me up. Probably just because he says it. But fuck, what were you saying?
You said you were going to come back to something about space.
Ooh, that is blurry.
We'll get there. Don't you worry, big dog. We're back.
So, I know what I was gonna say. So I heard someone say this, and it kind of blew my mind. But, like, in essence, what if the universe recreates itself every however billion years? You know what I mean? Like there's like an on-off switch, and it's like, you don't press that because that's gonna create this thing that we don't know what's gonna happen. And then one guy just gets like, what is it? That's our Big Bang. And this one person, but we don't know who it is, God, booms this massive creation. And it's like, because you have to think, like, the universe is infinite and vast, but we're this infinitesimally, I know, big words, like, small particle. Like, we're on this giant Earth, and we're these large human beings, but we are so small in relation to the rest of the universe. And so, and like, when they talk about this tiny thing creates this giant boom that created the universe, what if the big boom was a man-created phenomenon that created another universe?
That
And
sounds
then
like a conspiracy
Another
theory.
universe. And then, you know what I mean? When they talk about this multiverses and multiple universes, what if it was created by man? Speaking of how I was saying the Northern Star, I know this is a lot of me
You are
talking.
on one today.
I know. I think of these things and I'm like, fuck. It's probably the tequila talking.
Hi, Mom.
I don't get to talk to people about this shit, so just spread it. It's fun. You know how they talk about being like in a simulation.
I don't know who they is, and no, I
Many
don't.
of people.
Okay.
This isn't in my topics, but I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've always thought, like, you know how in Hunger Games where like she's like they're in this giant dome basically, and she shoots up at the thing and and the whole thing vibrates. What if we are, or the Earth is in this giant dome-like state? Because like I said, we're always hurling through infinity, But are we really? Yes.
Have you seen Men in Black 2?
Yes.
Do you know how that we're in the marble?
They're in a marble. Yes.
At the end of the film. Is that what you're suggesting?
No.
That we're in some alien's marble sack?
No. But like, why is the Northern Star always in that one spot? Or like, why haven't we made it to Mars? Like, why? Or why have we made it to the moon? You know what I mean?
No.
like,
I have answers for all of these questions.
Like the simulation creates the storm that's going on outside, or the virus that is killing us currently. You know what I mean?
That you sound like an insane person, dude. Do you know how if you're on a basketball hoop and you're on the free throw line and you walk 10 steps to the left, the basketball hoop is on your right?
Yes.
And if you walk 20 steps to the right, the basketball hoop is then on your left?
Yes.
You know how if you were 50 feet back at the full four-court line, you walk 10 steps to the left, basketball hoop's going to be on your right?
Definitely.
It's the same thing. It's the same
Oh,
thing,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
You're
I
still
think-
farther
I'm
away.
thinking- Yeah.
Same thing, right? You take 20 steps to the right, but it wouldn't have moved as far, right?
That's where you're saying the Northern Star.
Right. So the farther you get back, the less that motherfucker moves.
But
That's why the North Star. That's why the North Star appears to be in the same spot. That's what I think. That's all I'm qualified to think.
That's what's so insane though is like I thought about this before. Like you don't think about stars, and in science class you learn, oh, stars die over time, and blah blah blah. But like just like we see the sun, and it's fairly close, obviously, because it's a sizable ball in the sky.
Sizable.
Yes.
It's describing the sun as sizable.
Yes. But like
You know, it's just
a
this big.
star
It's
is
about this big.
trillions of miles away, and we see it from Earth. You know what I mean? Trillions of miles away, if not a simulation. But
Oh my god. This simulation
but
shit.
but it's trillions of miles away, and we can see it from Earth. That's fucking insane. Like how bright must that thing be? How big must that thing be?
I gotta drag you back to the North Star thing.
I was just talking about it.
You said, why doesn't the North Star move? I answered that
Yes.
to my ability. And then furthering that, you said, why haven't we gotten to Mars yet? I don't think people give a damn, bro. Nobody wants to be on Mars. That shit's dry as hell and hot as fuck, and nobody wants to be there. So that's why we ain't there yet. Because, like I said, I've answered that to the best of my ability, and I am probably the standard for most folks. There's like 10 scientists for every billion person.
Or here's the thing. Were we once on Mars?
Statistics. 10 per billion.
Were we once on Mars?
I don't know.
And
My history book says no.
the reason why it's so dry is because we depleted it of all its resources, and that's why we moved to Earth.
Did you watch Alex Jones this week?
No, I didn't. Is that? I don't even know what that is.
Did you watch Alex Jones this week?
No.
He's the guy who says the stuff you're saying.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No. I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. He speaks on a lot of this shit.
Alex Jones
I've
is the
seen
guy you
many
see in
things.
all the memes talking like a maniac.
No, I've probably seen some of those memes.
He's crazy. He is a crazy man. Let me get you off this real quick. We can come back to it if you like, but it's I think been an hour of you talking
These
about aliens.
These are high thoughts without being high. You know what I mean?
I guess. Jesus. Let me ask you about vocabulary. This is what I wrote down just a few moments ago. Because I
said a big word.
that's what brought it up to
Okay.
me and you, but I've been dealing with it all week because I was playing a stupid video game with my friend, and he's far from the biggest vocabulary in the world. But the bodyguard, he's this huge dude, and he said he's quite clearly a big guy, and you're meant to think all big guys are dumb. Obviously, the bodyguard understands that, and so he uses big words. He's got a huge vocabulary. He obviously reads books. And he says, jokingly, shall we perambulate the premises? Because what you're really going to do is go beat up some other hillbillies. You're going to go beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, shall we perambulate the premises? And my friend, Hermit, who you know, said, well, I don't even know what that fucking word means. And my first thought is, whose fault is that? It's not his fault. And so then like that brought up the whole idea, but perambulate means to walk. And I was talking to my mom and her boyfriend about that, and I mentioned the whole situation in the same light that I just mentioned it to you.
Shout out Miranda.
Hi, Mom. And Mark said the same thing. He's like, why the fuck didn't you just say walk? And I was like, wow, it's the same crowd dealing with the same folks. But it's kind of like the vocabulary, like how you've been using big words, but what do words mean? Why do we use certain words in vocab at the beginning of the podcast?
I know I've used the word perceive probably 13 times.
You said
this
perceive,
episode.
you said essence, which is all great. They're nice and big words, but why do we use different words? It's artistic. It's
this
different.
is what I'm saying. What is words?
But I have reasons. I don't just have questions.
What are these things, dude?
But that's what I'm saying. The words, they convey ideas,
And
thoughts, and feelings
And
in an accepted way.
As humans, we
standard.
always want to break things down to the simplest form, which is why back in the 1700s, if you tell like a kid now to read the Declaration of Independence, they're gonna be like, I don't know what the fuck this person's saying. You okay?
No, we're good. Talk about reading the Declaration.
I'm fucking my mic cord. Fuck with my mic cord. I don't know if that's fucking with yours. On my headset cord. But yeah, like you tell a child now to read the Declaration of Independence, they're gonna be like, what are these words? I don't
Doth thou mother know
Yes.
you weareth her drapes?
pretty much. But yeah, and then now it's like, saw dude, sucker.
It's
You know,
gotten
like,
very quick.
Simple.
It's all
like
text language.
exactly. So that's why Mark and Hermit and all these people go, what the fuck is that word? I don't even
I
understand.
think it's a pride thing. It's an artistic thing. It's a character-driven thing.
Yeah,
you get
and,
to use specific words for
and you
specific
can-
feelings.
Exactly. You can grow and be like, I'm gonna learn these bigger words. I want to
I know read books, so I know speak big
exactly,
word.
I want to extend my vocabulary, or like I know all these words that I can describe shit with, so I'm gonna stick with these.
Why use lot word when few word do trick?
Exactly.
I don't want to be like that. That ain't me.
Yeah.
I like the word perambulate.
Yeah.
Means to walk.
Why did you say to walk? I wouldn't know that.
Why
too.
are you retarded?
That's the thing. I can usually I don't know what that word means, but if I heard it, like let's go perambulate the
Premises.
I'd be like, okay, I understand what he's saying
And
now.
he's saying it facetiously because you're really going to kick some ass.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Like, if someone's like, oh, like a spelling bee when they say perambulate, I'm like, the fuck.
Never heard that word before.
And then they say
Can you define it?
yeah, they say the definition. I'm like, okay. But then when someone uses it in a sentence, I'm like, okay,
Word.
I can
Word.
gather that. Yeah,
Word.
exactly.
Vocabulary is a good one. It's been heavily prevalent in my lifetime recently.
Yeah. Speaking of vocabulary, do you ever know I thought about writing a book?
You
I
Write a book?
I almost did a couple years back when we were living in the apartments. Actually,
did you?
after you guys moved out, but
Is it a
I
kind of book? 50
did not.
Shades?
I did not write it, but I wanted to.
50 Shades?
No, it was going to be called the Downfall of Modern Society.
Somebody already wrote that.
I don't think so.
I promise. That's a book.
Is it? I doubt it.
I was actually going to write something. I was going to call it the Bible.
Yeah, I was gonna call it the Art of War, but
By Clayton Morden.
but no, it was basically going to be about how people's
I'm fact checking. It's
Oh.
called The Collapse. I apologize.
Oh, yeah, I said the downfall. of
What's the difference?
Modern society. They're two different things.
No, I'm playing the part of the guy who doesn't like the word perambulate.
But it was going to be a millennials. I wouldn't consider myself a millennial, but like a younger person, a person of my generation, take on my generation and how everything nowadays is. Like I've always been told I'm more mature. People perceive me as I'm more mature than I am. I'm sure you've heard that as well.
We're not very kiddie, huh?
Yeah, and so, and like I've always had the ideals of like a 50s household, and like the man does this, the woman does this, like here's how a family works, blah blah blah. Because I saw that growing up, and so when I see things nowadays of how people interact, how people text, that's basically what my book was. The premise of my book was going to be how people like we were talking about, people simplify things so
Why
archaically.
use lot word when few word do trick?
Exactly, you know. And but I just never ended up doing it. I didn't think.
I don't think you should call it that because that's already been written. But it'd definitely be an interesting one to firsthand account of the difference in societal change.
It was basically,
societal
and like at the time, it was
statuses.
basically what I observed through.
Am I to gather that you think gay not okay?
No, not at all.
Just kidding. Stupid joke.
I don't.
I'm still going off the few word do trick.
Yeah, I know.
That's just. It's weird that it's that ideology of the 50s is still a thing.
Yeah.
It seems less so now than when we were kids, because now gay okay.
Yeah. Well, and like what kind of drives me nuts is like a coworker of mine, an ex-coworker of mine. He's 60 years old. I would always say like, oh, you know, I'm gonna continue to work, or vice versa. My wife's gonna continue to work while I stay home with the kid, or I'm gonna continue to work while she stays home with the kid. And he's like, well, that's just not possible. You can't do that in this day of age, which is kind of.
You said this, or he?
No, he said this. Which kind of holds true because back in the day, you know, you could buy milk for 17 cents a gallon.
Wait a minute. He said that he's gonna stay home. And
No.
That wasn't
I
possible?
said I would, you know, like the 50s style of things. Like when we have a child, one of us is gonna stay home, the other's gonna be the breadwinner.
Okay.
And that's kind of how
The
I've
bacon
always
eater.
that's how I've always perceived things to be in a relationship or in a marriage when you have a child. But he was like, that's just not possible in this day of age, which kind of holds true. But at the same time, I'm like, well, why not? You know. And so
Just want to investigate that.
yeah, and that always kind of like drove me nuts because no matter what I would say, like it is doable because we make this amount of money, our bills are only this. Yes, a child costs money to raise, but probably not what you think it does. And then like, oh, well, you can try. And that shit always, it kind of goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about the people telling you, oh, I did it, so and it fucking.
Yeah.
I made it here, and
That's
I
somebody
wouldn't do it.
who's climbed the mountain and
Exactly.
telling you their experience, and you're not
Round
letting
trip.
them. Hell yeah, that's fun. I would agree with you on that. I know people who are teachers, and teachers in Oregon have critically low pay. It's been a long time thing. I know people who are teachers who have spouses who do not work,
Yeah.
and they have great things, nice cars,
Oh, yeah.
nice
Nice
homes,
houses.
land.
Yes.
That doesn't seem far-fetched. What do you want to call it there at the full circle, or should we keep going?
Whatever you want to do, boss.
Oh, we've had a lot today. We've had space, gays.
And I don't remember talking about gays, but
Well, I
you
gotta
brought it
do
up
it.
for a
I
minute
was tossing it in there
amount
just
of
so you could
time.
tag gay in the video, and then we get viewed.
Hi, Dad.
Gay, okay. Let me just confirm. Gay, okay. Hi, Clayton's dad. We've met once. Just once.
You've met more than
No,
once.
just once.
Graduation party.
That's it.
My wedding.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um,
You're right. I'm wrong.
growing up.
No, that's not a thing.
He was in the picture a couple times, or in the room at least.
Yeah.
8th grade
Good stuff.
promotion,
Yeah, that's good stuff.
etc.
Etc. I was actually nervous that I wouldn't have anything to talk about this week, but goddamn, you fucking flew away with the conversation.
I know. Well,
You
yeah.
were like, everybody hop on board the
The
spaceship.
the
We're going to
more-
conspiracy
the
land.
more you went into shit, I was like, okay, I'll say some shit. I only had 3 topics
Sheesh.
written down.
3. I just had the clarity.
Well, I
That's
had-
all I had.
4, but I mildly talked about them.
Damn, well, we did it this week, huh?
It's a good one.
Do you have an outro as well as your intro that you had, or should I just yell?
For citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.